A lot has changed in 8 weeks of fantasy football. Some players that you deemed very highly, some players you deemed as sleepers that would win you your league, may not be performing that way. Or even the opposite. You may have thought Chris Godwin was going to have a bad season. I know I did. Then I was like for 7 weeks, damn, I was wrong. But evidently, the reason I said he wouldn't be that good was because of injury and not being injured last year. Unfortunately, gets injured this year. Sucks to see it, but it is the reality. He went from being a league winner to being nothing. Today, we're going to be talking about 8 players that are going to be ascending from week 8 and on. Whatever you thought of them the first 7-8 weeks, whatever their situation was due to injury or not, these are the 8 hottest players that you can grab in fantasy. So let's roll the intro. Starting up first, this one's a little twofold. This is going to be one team talking about 2 players, and I'm sure you all already know the team and the 2 players I'm talking about, and that would be Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane. I could have lumped Waddle into this category as well. I just felt like Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane had much more to gain in terms of ascending from where they were, even though Waddle was just as low as them, if not even lower in terms of fantasy when Tua was injured. We still have to accept that there is a ceiling that Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane can reach that Jalen Waddle unfortunately cannot this season. Make no mistake about it, Jalen Waddle is absolutely ascending in his own right, but if I name 3 Dolphins right off the bat and I'm only giving you 5 other names, I feel like I'm almost cheating you out of a video, no? Tyreek Hill, who's currently the 43rd best wide receiver in PPR at the time of me recording this video, will have a lot of catching up to do if he wants to finish as a top 5 fantasy wide receiver like we all thought he would be. But being and finishing in the top 12 is not out of the range of outcomes whatsoever with Tua Tagovailoa coming back. Tyreek Hill was borderline unplayable in the absence of Tua, and now that you get Tua back, we should be projecting him like he is a top 5 wide receiver because he is a top 5 wide receiver in this league. Now let's talk about Devon Achane, who was the 23rd best running back at the time of me recording this video, and he kind of felt unstartable ever since Tua left the lineup. Yes, he had a very good week 2 with or without Tua in the Dolphins lineup, but after that, he was virtually unplayable and was still RB23. So that speaks volumes of the player that Devon Achane was prior to the Tua injury. And let's not forget, Devon Achane's schedule is going to get a lot easier. Yes, he had very easy matchups the first 2 weeks of the season, and we saw him reap the benefits of that, but now his schedule is going to get easier than what it was over the past 4 to 5 weeks. In weeks 9 through 12 alone, just a 4-game stretch coming up after this week, he plays no better than the 23rd best defense in terms of fantasy points allowed to the running back position. I would feel really confident in buying Devon Achane, but the price probably went up way too high, being that Tua is now back in this lineup. If you want Achane, it's not too late to acquire him, but you better bring your wallets. Next up is Caleb Williams, and what's interesting about Caleb is that even though he was ascending and his schedule is becoming increasingly more difficult as the season goes on, and he struggled with all of his early easy matchups that he had this season, coming off of the bye week, we should expect a totally different Caleb Williams than what we saw the first few weeks. And let's not forget, his last 2 games that he played, he looked phenomenal. He looked like the number 1 overall pick that the Bears acquired. I feel like he's more available in terms of who has him rostered in what leagues just because he happened to have a bye week last week. And we shouldn't let that be a reason to just keep him available as a free agent. He should be projected as a top 10 quarterback going forward. Maybe even a top 8 quarterback for the rest of the season going forward. His last 2 games, he has 2 really good starts under his belt. He gets the bye week to rest, gets the bye week to focus and lock in for the rest of the season. And this is a recipe for a QB1 campaign for Caleb Williams this year. The next player I have ascending in value is none other than the Cleveland Browns running back, Nick Chubb. Chubb is ascending in value now because he is coming back from injury, and it was an injury he suffered in week 2 of the 2023 season. So it's been a very long time since we've seen Nick Chubb, And a lot of questions about, can he still be that guy that we all know he is? And the answer is yes. I guess you could say the Browns were being cautious in terms of how much they used Nick Chubb last week. But for somebody that played 36% of the snaps, Nick Chubb carried more than half of the team's rushing attempts. I get it. They threw way too much and had no reason to really run the ball in this game. But he still saw not only more work than everybody else, he saw more than half of the rushing attempts out of everybody on the team and played 36% of snaps, a complimentary role. It's clear we don't have to worry about Nick Chubb's workload going forward, and if the Browns continue to play him more and more in terms of snap count and he reaches even just 60-65% of the snaps, Nick Chubb could be an elite fantasy running back and push for a top 20 campaign. The next player on this list is George Pickens, wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Pickens was having an all-right season, despite lacking in the touchdown department this season. But given the QB upgrade in terms of schematic fit for George Pickens, Russell Wilson is a lot better of a quarterback pairing for George Pickens than Justin Fields was. With George Pickens being the wide receiver 22 currently and only having one receiving touchdown to show for that, if Russell Wilson can turn him into even 50% of what he turned Courtland Sutton into last year, which I don't think this is a shocker to anyone, George Pickens is much better than Courtland Sutton. George Pickens can really take off this year and break into a tier that we didn't even expect him to be in. If I had to sit here today and predict where I could see George Pickens going, where his ceiling could ultimately be for the rest of the season, I would say the 15th or so best wide receiver is not too outlandish or too crazy in the range of outcomes for George Pickens with Russell Wilson for the rest of the year. From one receiver to another, let's talk about Amari Cooper of the Buffalo Bills. And it's no secret that Amari Cooper now is in the best offense he's ever been in his career. He has the best QB play he's ever had in his career. And despite playing a low amount of snaps and being a minimal part of the Bills' offense, Amari Cooper was still effective. So if Amari Cooper continues to play more and increases from the 35% of the snaps he played last week, Amari Cooper could be a very, very good fantasy receiver. As long as the Bills are going to keep designing plays for Amari Cooper and increase the amount of opportunities he's out on the field, for Amari Cooper, finishing as a top 20 wide receiver in consecutive seasons, this would be the fourth time he'd do it in his career. And honestly, I would bet on it to happen again. I don't know if you could predict who's next, but it's another wide receiver. And that's Jalen McMillan of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With Godwin done for the season and Mike Evans to miss at least the next few weeks or so, Jalen McMillan is going to be in for a massive workload upgrade. This rookie had a tough time figuring it out in his real first action in the NFL. Yes, he's been on the team the entire season, but they really haven't used him all that much. Although he didn't do much with his volume last week, he still saw 8 targets, and that volume still has to go to somebody in the Tampa Bay offense. Baker Mayfield has to throw the ball to somebody, and his best 2 options right now are Jalen McMillan and Cade Otton. Jalen McMillan is a gifted wide receiver, and he really has the potential here to stop your derailing fantasy football season due to injuries. This player might just be what you were looking for. And the last one. I hope you're hungry for some breadsticks, because we're going to the Chris Olave garden. With the absence of Rashid Shaheed and the soon-to-be returning Derek Carr, Chris Olave is going to start to ascend as soon as he gets his quarterback back. And at one point, we all unanimously thought Chris Olave was a great value in round 2 no matter where you took him. A lot has changed in those 7 to 8 weeks. But now, a lot more is going to change in the next 7 to 8 weeks when he gets back Derek Carr and there is no Rashid Shaheed to throw to. I truly see this, whether you play in a dynasty league or a redraft format, this will be the last time that you can get Chris Olave on a discount before we consider him a top 12 receiver for the rest of his career. And very rarely, and unfortunately this is due to quarterback play, very rarely do we see the opportunity to buy low on someone who really does have top 12 wide receiver potential. And Chris Olave is that guy. Those are my 8 players that are ascending from week 8 and on. If you watched and stayed throughout the entirety of this video, thank you so much. If you're new to the channel, feel free to smash the like button. For all my loyal supporters that are always watching the videos and smashing that like button, thank you very much. If you're subscribed, thank you very much. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. I might thank you in the next video for doing so. But that's all I have for you guys today. I truly am grateful for all of you that watch and support these videos. I will continue to keep making more as the season goes on. We were making a lot more before the season started. I haven't been delivering in terms of in-season content, and I have to be better with that. But in the meantime, I'm going to go lock in and get better at making this content stuff. My name is Turtle. This is Outlier Fantasy, and I'll see you in the next video.